Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are going to discuss something very important this week. We are going to talk about self-mastery, self-control, how to really have control of your emotional state and learn how to rise above the drama and the negativity that you might be in sometimes. Whether it's a family member, whether it's an ex-partner, whether it is your partner, whether it's a sibling, whoever it is, there's probably someone in your life that's a little dysfunctional at times, triggers you in some ways. And so in this video, I want to give you some tips on how to really take more control of your emotional state so you respond differently in these situations and you're not so reactive. And you also don't take what someone's doing, I don't want to say personally, but you don't take it on where it just completely drains and depletes your energy. Having self-control over yourself is, it's very important. It's mental health. You have to learn how to do this because if you don't, then quite frankly, you're just going to get caught up in the negativity, in the drama. You're going to want someone to change. You're going to fall down the rabbit hole with someone. And it's nothing good comes of it. So your ability to have self-control means that you are going to take responsibility going forward for everything that you feel, regardless of what someone did to you. So we are not pointing fingers at anyone. Every emotion that you feel, whether you get angry because you're at a red light, whether someone canceled plans and that frustrated you, whether you're scared, whether you're worried, whatever it is, whether you're sad, everything that you feel is now your responsibility. Because guess what? It actually is. It's not your responsibility for feeling the way that you do because something happened to you. We're not taking that on, but we are saying that when things do happen to me that I didn't create, that I can't control, and I just feel a certain way, that's what I'm owning. I'm just owning how I feel in those situations. You never want to be the reason why you stay stuck in a feeling for too long, because if you stay stuck in an uncomfortable feeling for too long, what you end up doing is you just end up suppressing usually how you feel, and you're not really processing how you feel and what it is that you're actually going through. So we're all going to go through uncomfortable situations. We're all going to have times where this thing that we're going through is really uncomfortable. It's really difficult. So you learning how to take control of your emotional state means that you're going to take full responsibility for how you feel, and you're going to actually learn how to deal with how you feel. We're not getting our ego involved. We're not staying stuck in a place for too long. We're not needing someone to do something or say something differently in order for us to feel better, because then we're just at the mercy of other people changing, which probably not going to happen, and it just leaves us very codependent. It's not healthy, it's not self-empowering, nothing good is going to possibly come of it. So you are the only one that is going to be able to create your own happiness. You're the only one that can ever get you out of a space. So the more you don't do this, the more you just kind of keep all of that pent up whatever, sadness, anger, frustration, worry going inside of you, and you can suppress it for a little while, but eventually it's going to manifest in other ways, and that's what we're trying to avoid. When we talk about self-mastery and controlling your emotional state, one of the things that I'm always talking about is self-parenting, the ability to parent yourself in all aspects of life, but we're going to talk about just this one situation, is being able to take control over your emotions. The first thing is you have to be able to acknowledge what it is that you're actually feeling. So you have to be able to acknowledge that there is a trigger there and understand the story behind the trigger that's actually causing the feeling to happen. Now, this can be a little tricky in the beginning because you really want to get to the root of what it is that you're thinking that's causing the feeling. And sometimes getting to the root of what's actually the thought there can be hard for some people because they're going to mask how they feel with this one thought. For example, let's say that you're angry because your partner is messy and leaves their clothes all over the floor all the time. They never put their clothes in the hamper, and it really is starting to aggravate you. It's not the clothes being on the floor that's aggravating you, that's making you angry. It's what that actually means to you. One question to kind of ask yourself to help remove your ego from the situation a little bit so you can actually get to the root of what's really going on here, and possibly not even take what someone is doing personally, because the story behind someone leaving their clothes on the floor is that it's a personal attack on you, that they just don't care about you, that they don't respect you, and that personal attack will cause that kind of anger and defensiveness to come up. But when you ask yourself a question, why are they doing what they're doing? This is a great question to ask. It's a great question to ask, especially if you're dealing with someone who's narcissistic, because they're going to be doing things that are going to be hurtful. They're going to want to cut you at your knees at times. And whether they say something or do something that just completely triggers you and frustrates you or makes you so sad, this is a great question because, again, it removes your ego, it removes that wounded child away from this situation so you can see what's happening and try to understand why someone is behaving the way that they're doing. When you ask that question, you completely remove yourself from the equation, because what someone is doing really has nothing to do with you. I think a great kind of next step, and this is really dependent on who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with someone who is receptive and healthy for the most part, then you can very well go this route. And this is a great thing to be able to establish your own boundaries, discuss what your standards are with people, and it allows you to have really healthy relationship because you're teaching someone how you want to be treated. And we're always doing that, regardless of the person in front of us, regardless if they're healthy, regardless if they're completely toxic and narcissistic. It is your job to always be talking about your boundaries, enforcing your boundaries, and your ability to articulate yourself and verbally communicate what you need, how you feel, how you would like to be treated. That's essential. And that's also a practice as well, because chances are you didn't really grow up in a household where boundaries were either respected or someone really fostered that inner voice to come out so you could establish yourself in your house. Most households don't allow for the child to really have a voice. And so if you don't know how to have a voice, then communicating and articulating yourself in healthy ways, not in defensive ways, not coming from anger, none of those things are going to be very difficult for you. So when you ask yourself, why are they doing what they're doing? And you kind of do a little bit of that like psychology and try to figure out, okay, what's really going on here? And that this isn't a personal attack. It's not an insult on me. It's just what? Maybe they don't care as much about being clean and organized as I do. Maybe it's laziness. Maybe they're a little depressed. Maybe, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, but all of those things on those lists have nothing to do with actually me. But if it's something that is of a really high value to you, then it is important to be able to communicate with this person. This is where you start discussing what you would like to have happen and how you would like to be treated. This is where you can kind of start the conversation of what you would like from this person that you feel as though right now they're not giving you. The really great thing about these types of conversations is, first off, it gives you the practice to be able to start articulating yourself and doing it from a healthy space. How often do we approach a person and we start talking to them and we're still angry, we're still upset, we're still whatever, because we haven't removed ourselves from this situation? If you have not removed yourself and you don't take what someone is doing personally, you're not going to be able to come to the table and say things in a healthy way. You're going to bring the anger, you're going to bring the ego, you're going to bring the sadness, whatever it is, because you haven't really sat in that space of soothing yourself or validating yourself and not taking what someone's doing personally. That requires a little bit of work that you have to do all by yourself. But let's say that work's done. Let's say, Steph, I'm self-parenting. I am really working on myself. Like, I own it. And so no anger whatsoever. I'm going to come to this table. I'm going to be super healthy and communicate myself in the best way I possibly know how. Great. As you start to communicate yourself with this person, you get to see how this person is now going to show up. Are they going to show up with anger? Are they going to show up with defensiveness? Which 9 times out of 10, if you're dealing with someone who is just not really working on their own self, that is usually where they're going to come from. They're going to come from anger. They're going to come from defensiveness or manipulation or gaslighting or whatever it is that they like to use. And every person who is completely oblivious, unconscious, unaware, not taking responsibility for their own self is going to come to the table with either 1 or 2 different emotionally abusive tactics. So as you sit there and you're communicating, you're doing a great job. Now you're starting to see this person come forward and their approaches, their tactics that they use when they're uncomfortable. And this is where, again, throughout this whole process, you are holding on to yourself. When you hold on to yourself, there's no trigger that's happening. Again, this can be really hard to do. But let's just say you're doing a really great job and you're completely cool, calm, collected, and you're communicating in the best way. As this person starts to get defensive, as the drama starts happening, as they want to pull you into this negativity, and as you are practicing staying calm and cool, the more you stay cool, the more this person's probably going to get annoyed and get defensive or frustrated or whatever that looks like, because you are doing something different than you've done before. So you kind of have to, I would say the hardest thing with all of this is you learning how to be consistent with holding on to yourself. The more consistent you are with this person, the more over time that they actually will change. They won't change their character, but they will change their approach with you, because it's like beating their head against a brick wall. Nothing good is going to come of it. I'm not able to get through to this person and they're not reacting. Now let's use a different example or a different situation. Let's just say that a situation gets you so emotionally charged that you just can't let it go, that you're trying so hard to come to the table calm, confident, and articulating yourself in a healthy way, but you start to feel all of those feelings of anger or whatever it is starting to kind of creep up. You're like, look, I'm doing a really good job here, but they're starting to come to the surface and now I don't know what to do. You have to disengage. I'm not talking silent treatment. I'm not talking about walking off. I'm just talking about taking care of yourself to say, you know what, the situation actually is getting a little uncomfortable. I'm getting a little upset and I'm going to remove myself and give myself a timeout. Totally fine. Processing how you feel, depending on the emotion that you're feeling, can be a challenge sometimes. The only thing that's going to be able to help is you really understanding the stories behind the feelings that you're feeling. When you start challenging those stories, because those stories are just made up fears that you have, and the more you kind of keep going over and over again with them in your mind, the more you're getting frustrated, the more you're getting sad, the more you're getting defensive, the more of that feeling is going to happen if you just keep that story alive. But when you see the story, you challenge it and you understand that it's not real, it's just like a made up fear that you have, and you detach yourself from it, then the story starts to fizzle a little bit. Now, if the story still doesn't fizzle and it's just a doozy, it's just really got you there, at some point it just becomes a decision to let it go and to not try to fix it or engage with it. This kind of method of handling certain thoughts that you're going to have can be really beneficial. I'm not talking about suppressing. I'm talking about it's almost like a fly. You know, at some point, you can't find it, you're not going to kill it, you just have to ignore that it's in the room and that there's nothing you can do about it. So the more you just ignore something, the more it doesn't bother you as much if you can learn to just let it go. Again, that's a practice. But here's the thing too, and this is what's really helped me with the whole letting go thing, is letting go helps me to get me to where I want to be. Letting go is about me and not about anyone else. Self-control or self-mastery at the end of the day really just has to do with a decision that you make to want to move on from a space. Once you've kind of and you can't do that first. That's the last step that you do. You first have to be able to process how it is that you're actually feeling, learning how to validate how you feel, learning how to soothe yourself. Those are two incredibly important things that most people do not do, and this is why they have poor emotional health. If you have poor emotional health, then that means that your emotions take over and you have absolutely no control over them, and they take you whichever way you want to go. And you and I both know that's not healthy, and that's not going to lead you to have the life that you actually want to have. You're going to get caught up in the negativity, you're going to get caught up in the drama, you're going to let your fears and your worries and your anxieties take over and your insecurities, and you're not going to be the person that you want to be. So I hope this video has helped you. I hope it gave you some really great tips. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. If you did like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. Go follow me on social as well. I always link everything down below in terms of Instagram, Facebook, Threads, etc. And I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.